Welcome to the Sabo Ross Experiment. We have liftoff. Woohoo!
Hey there, everybody. This is the Sabo Ross Experiment. We've got another episode we're doing live here. Today we're going to talk about something. Last weekend I was very excited. I got to go see in IMAX the new Mission Impossible, the 8th movie, The Final Reckoning.
Haven't seen it yet.
IMAX. It's a Mission Impossible movie. They're a couple steps up from like one of those Fast and Furious movies. Like, they aren't the brainiest movies. That's not why you're there. You're not there for like intricate, intense plot. You're there for the fun action sequences, of which it had numerous. But what surprised me a lot was not a sold out crowd.
Ooh.
Attendance was a bit low. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed in me. Like, I have no regrets about spending the money, spending the extra on IMAX. The action scenes are worth it. But overall story and plot was just a step down. But at the same time, it worries me about an overall trend. What were you going to say?
Well, I did notice, because I was like, it was a holiday weekend, that it was released. And, I didn't hear any news about it on Tuesday. Because normally
they talk about box office.
Oh yeah, they go box office right away, and there I didn't zippo.
Nothing. Same thing. I noticed that too. I was really shocked that like nobody was talking about the numbers. And I remember my roommate's like, "Well, I missed the first weekend. I'm never going to see IMAX." And I'm like, "I'm pretty sure it's Tom Cruise. He booked 2 weekends in IMAX," and they did. This following week, it's still in IMAX this weekend. But I think the numbers are going to be low.
Well, I'll tell you, I also think there wasn't a lot of promo for the film.
There wasn't as much as normal.
No, because I think they thought it was automatic.
In a lot of ways, I think they did.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, that to me, there's a trend, because I'm big on pop movies. I love pop movies. The last 2 Marvel movies have bombed.
Yeah.
Captain America bombed. And it had so many bad reviews. And I'm like, this is one of the best Marvel movies I've seen in years.
Well, we didn't have the Captain America that I know in it.
But I think there's something to that. And it's not about race. It's about this is a different person. And if you didn't watch the TV shows, you didn't do all your homework.
Which I didn't.
And that's the thing is, so it's like, how is this Captain America? When did this happen?
Well, yeah, it turned me off right away, because I was like expecting, I liked when they're together, those guys and whatnot, but just to say he's going to carry the whole thing, I was like, I didn't go.
But for me, though, the movie was awesome. The script, the story, the direction, everything was fantastic, and it bombed. And then they had all these promos for the Thunderbolts. That was another Marvel movie where they took all the bad guys from a bunch of the different movies and put them as a team to be kind of anti-heroes.
Thunderbolts?
Thunderbolts.
Never heard of it.
And what's funny is it always had an asterisk, and everybody saw it coming. It's going to be the new Avengers. And after they had this hilarious, awesome marketing ploy, which was after the first week, all of the movie posters had a tear off to tear off the word Thunderbolts, and it says New Avengers.
It does?
Yeah, and the movie marquees all say New Avengers. The problem is they just spent 19 months promoting Thunderbolts and to say New Avengers. And so and the thing is, the reviews on this movie, super positive. The reviews, the people and the reviewers think this movie's great. It made less movie than Captain America.
Well, I guess
it's closer to the summer.
I mean, I'll be honest, I never heard of it. Sorry, I've never heard of Thunderbolts.
The whole thing to me, though, is it's really pointing to a bad trend in box office in general. Meaning, I am really, really, really worried that the movie theater business could be in very serious trouble, that it may not survive.
Well, I mean, I do not disagree. I mean, AMC has tried everything under the sun to stay relevant. They thought Taylor Swift would save the day, and it did for a blink.
It did for about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's not a long-term business model.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you that the placement of the movies, what's available to them, and what we talked about on a previous episode, the 3 big players, Amazon, Netflix,
Disney Plus, Apple Plus.
Well, Apple, they've got the reins, over the traditional studios.
I think that is flipped entirely. That there's the whole aspect of streaming companies. First off, the old traditional movie studios that began this whole thing. Again, I have this fabulous book that was initiated by George Lucas, but he didn't write it, called Blockbusting. Phenomenal book. It took the 300 highest grossing films of all time in adjusted dollars. So they did everything backdated at, I think, 2009. So everything in the past, they adjusted inflation and everything to match 2009 dollars. Anything after 2009, they decreased it to match 2009 numbers. But far more importantly were the interstitial chapters about Hollywood. And I've read so many great things that I want to know more about. Like, everybody's heard the term Warner Brothers, but the story of the 7 Warner brothers that made the company, they're from Youngstown, Ohio. Never knew that. They were from Youngstown, Ohio. They owned penny arcades. They invested heavily in the Nickelodeons of watching movies and eventually started investing in theaters, then went to Hollywood and started making movies with the money they'd made.
Did you say Youngstown?
I believe it's Youngstown,
No kidding. Ohio.
Ohio. Where the 7 Warner Brothers came from.
I had no idea.
I had never heard that before. And then they talk about how Jack Warner, one of the younger brothers, screwed the rest of the brothers out of the money in the company. So Hollywood is based on backstabbing and
that's
money.
Youngstown right there, baby.
That's Youngstown. It fits. It fits a theme of multiple things. But it was the idea of Hollywood and how it makes money. And at the time, the studios made the movies and they owned the theaters. And eventually they got broken up, being you can't own the theaters and make the movies. That's price fixing.
Well, didn't they own the actors too?
They had actors all on contract.
The stars.
That all changed with one actress named Lillian Gish.
Really?
She was the first independent contractor. It's like Joe Namath with the NFL. First free agent, changed everything in the industry. All of a sudden, they want more money.
Yeah.
And started taking money because it was all made on the top, and everybody was like a salaried little employee. You'd be directing a movie. You would work for like 4 weeks directing a movie. On Monday, you started another movie.
Yeah.
It was a factory.
Yeah.
They made movies like a factory, and there were pluses and minuses to that. And the moment Lillian Gish became independent of a studio, and they had to pay her because people wanted to see her.
Uh-huh. Well, what about United Artists? Doesn't that kind of ring a bell, like
Artists,
Charlie Chaplin?
That's a response to the studio system.
Yeah.
You had Charlie Chaplin, Douglas Fairbanks, and you had the film director who did
Douglas.
Who did Birth of a Nation? D.W. Griffith.
Yeah, Griffith. Yeah.
Griffith, and there were 1 or 2 other people that created their own studio. But the problem is, it's no different than Apple Records with the Beatles. They're musicians, not business people. So their idea was noble, but they were not business people, and it fell apart and eventually got bought by Sony. MGM and Sony bought it.
Well, what about Desilu? Remember, I don't know who.
Desilu was
Lucille Ball's husband.
Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. They created that company, but that was a independent production company, not a studio.
Because everything in the studio had their name all over it. So they didn't actually own a studio, though.
They never owned a studio. They were a production company, and they funded Star Trek.
They did?
Lucille Ball.
Well, they were divorced, I'm sure, by then.
Oh, yeah. By that point, it's all hers.
Yeah. Okay.
Desilu was entirely hers after the divorce.
Okay.
He had no business stake or controlling interest, just some profit points. Yeah, it's so sad how much I know about Hollywood history, but all of that sets the stage for today, 2025. I think my theory, my amateur sideline theory is movie theaters have not recovered from the pandemic. People got very used to not going to the theater, not being in large groups. And it's weird. Concerts have recovered pretty much fully. Plays have recovered pretty much fully. But movie theaters, for some reason, and I think there's all kinds of hypothetical reasons I can present, which is, well, TV screens at home have gotten bigger. Home surround sound systems have gotten better. And now the window between when it's out in the theater and when it comes to streaming has shortened so much.
Yeah.
That what's the difference?
Yeah.
Why see it in theater when it's going to be at your home in a couple weeks?
Well, I used to get upset with Disney because, okay, I get to Disney Plus when it first came out. I thought I was going to be able to watch their big movies on Disney Plus. Well, oh, sure, it's on Disney Plus, but they wanted me to pay for it on top of my subscription.
Well, they haven't done that in a while.
Yeah. Well, that's what started me, right? And then I was like, I bailed. Now, of course, they've learned their lesson and changed it. But now the packaging of Disney Plus, Hulu,
and ESPN,
they're getting a lot more customers again, and they have given you more value for the product.
They also offer that lower tier with ads.
Yeah, yes, in the ads. But see, that just tells you that just helps kill the theater. Too much content. I don't have time for all of it.
Well, and there's so many layers to what could be causing the movie theaters to lose business. They have always jacked up the price of popcorn and soda.
Yeah, and I used to not care, but I do now.
$8 for a Coke.
Yeah.
$11, $12 for a big thing of popcorn.
Yeah.
That's $20, and then you're paying $12 to $15 for the ticket. That's $35 per person.
Yeah.
So a $70 for date night minimum just to see a movie, that could be a problem. That could be a major factor, is the cost.
Yeah.
But that's there. The thing is for the movie theater, that's their only profit, is the popcorn, candy, and drinks. They don't make, people have this misconception that the movie theater is making the money from the ticket. That's not how that works. I used to be a manager in a movie theater for years and years. I was a manager at two different movie theaters, and it's like, this is not how that works. What happens is, how much money do you think out of a $12 ticket, how much do you think the movie theater gets out of that $12? What would be your guess?
I'll say 10%.
10%? That's pretty close. About $1.20 is about right.
Yeah.
Now, companies like Disney can negotiate and it varies week to week. The first week, the theater will get, in the case of like a Marvel movie, the theater will get almost nothing, maybe 30, 40 cents a ticket, if that.
Yeah.
Because it's a guaranteed, used to be before this past year, used to be some guaranteed money when it was a Marvel movie. But then the second week, that'll be back up to that $1 to $2 of the 12. After the third, fourth, and fifth week, then they start seeing $3, $4 a ticket. And by the end, even though they're only selling 20, 30 tickets, they're making almost the same amount of money when they were selling 200 tickets.
Well, I have a theory. I have another theory.
Hit me.
Yeah, because I think it, just as a movie maker and a movie goer, right? I've worked on a few features, and I never knew what the term tentpole meant. Right. So I'm working with this producer on, I'll think of the name of the movie here in a little while, but we're running around, and he's talking about the movie industry, and he's like, look, because I always talk about independent. Yeah. Now, an independent feature still can be, $5, $6, $10 million, and that's nothing, right?
Even in today's world, 20, 30 million is considered
Kevin Costner, $50 million on
that Western, Horizon.
Yeah, and he's in trouble now for Horizon 2.
Oh, yeah.
On the stunt.
He gambled his whole life on it and is losing.
Well, he's losing, but now there's a lawsuit by one of the stunt people. His main actress didn't want to do a rape scene, threw the stunt person in there. The stunt person didn't know what was going on, and now she's very upset. But anyway, here's the thing. When I used to go to the movies all the time, there was variety.
That's also true. That was something I was going to get to.
Why don't, okay, you got 20 screens. I don't need 5 of those to be the same film.
But the thing is, that's the money, though, is...
Well, yes and no, because it's not working.
That's the point of it, is so true, which is, again, being my age and your age, we remember a time when they had 12 screens, it was roughly 10 movies. It was 10 movies.
Well, yeah, because we were jumping from theater to theater by buying one ticket and seeing 6 movies that day.
Or that was very true for me. By the way, AMC caught on to that, and they no longer list the name of the movie or the time it starts.
No kidding.
Those lights, those red lights that tell you what movie it is and what time it starts, they don't.
But
they don't
I would have bought
anymore.
more popcorn. Well, of course, I'd buy the big tub and get free refills.
But that's still their money.
Yeah.
They still made their money.
So, if I'm running around in there,
But the other thing is, but content-wise, what you do not see in a theater, because it doesn't make money, an adult drama. An adult drama, a 2-hour movie about adults talking, will not make a nickel in a movie theater anymore. And the saddest part about that, where I think your theory is right and where I believe in this, is if that movie was in a theater, adults are more likely to pay to see a movie and sit in the dark room with no phone than a 20-year-old or a teenager. They don't want to sit in the room for 2 straight hours. They definitely don't want to not be on their phone for 2 hours. That's like a spiritual death to a teenager today to not have their phone on for 2 straight hours. That's insane.
It'd be nice.
Be nice. Not when it comes to movie theaters. I don't care. I don't care.
Well, that's
what
one
you
of the
do.
reasons why I don't go anymore. I don't like the distractions. Like you said, my technology here at my house, I'm more than happy.
And the thing is, though, as someone who lives and dies by the movie theater experience, I still sometimes prefer to watch at home only because I've got a 75-inch Ultra HD 4K TV, not quite OLED, but it's that one notch down. So when it's black, it's black. I have the lights off. I have full 7.2 Dolby Atmos surround. I'm in heaven when I watch stuff at home.
And that TV's paying for itself now. You know what I mean?
That TV was worth
What an
every
investment.
nickel. I got it for only $800.
Yeah, and the price was great.
$800. I have inherited my father's frugality. I'm more excited about the deal than the product half the time, just like my father. But when it comes to the movie theater, the distractions are a problem when they happen. But the thing is, there's still that communal experience that I do not want to have lost. That sharing of laughter, the sharing of awe. So during the pandemic, again, going back to Marvel, they released that movie in theaters called Black Widow with Scarlett Johansson. It didn't do well because it was literally in the middle of a pandemic. People did not want to be gathered in large groups, right or wrong. Theoretical or not, it doesn't matter. It affected box office. It affected her income by releasing the movie that way. So she sued and got a settlement.
Yeah, that's right.
And they tried that thing where they charged $24 to watch it at home at the same time because of the pandemic. But the thing is, though, that communal experience was lost. And one of the things they did as the pandemic ended, Marvel specifically, not Disney, but Marvel had a brilliant marketing campaign pushed by the Russo brothers who did the Avengers. They did a watch party when it was streaming. And one of the things they talked about with Robert Downey Jr. was, and they showed clips from YouTube videos of people that shot with their phone, the crowd reactions to key moments.
Yeah.
So Disney, who normally would slam everybody who did that with a copyright complaint, the Russo brothers and Robert Downey are like, don't do that. Let them have it. Let them keep that on YouTube. It only helps us. And then they decided to use it by not paying those people. They made real commercials and trailers with average person cell phone video and showed this is what you missed at the movie theater. The whole idea of that, the whole thing. Like I did when the first Avengers came out, they had this thing at AMC when the Lenox Theater was an AMC. It was a specialized thing, really expensive. I bought tickets for me and my friend Micah, and we spent the entire day from like 10:30 a.m. to midnight. They did every single Marvel movie in a row.
I'm not seeing the feed.
Hang on one second. Let me check this. We should be seeing it.
We forgot to do the...
Oh, no. It says we're live.
All right. Well,
so I think we're live.
I don't have it on our page.
Can you refresh?
Sure.
Just to double check. We'll
technology.
We will edit this out if we put this back up, but I'm pretty sure it's live. Does it say that was live? Yeah, I think you just have to refresh the page.
I did.
Let's see it now.
There you go.
There it is. We are live. Okay. We
Sorry.
We had an emergency check to make sure that worked.
That was weird. It just didn't come up.
That is weird, but it's working now. So
Sorry.
But yeah, so we did this whole day thing, and they showed every Marvel movie in a row, starting with Iron Man. And there was a guy way bigger than me, dressed as Thor. I would call him Fat Thor. I can say that because I'm fat. Called him Fat Thor. And every single time Stan Lee had a cameo in a movie, Fat Thor would stand up, raise his plastic hammer, and say, "Stan!" And the first time he did it, he was alone, and it was funny. We laughed. Each movie, more people joined. And by the time it happened at the very end of Avengers at almost midnight, the entire theater is screaming, "Stan!" right with Fat Thor. And it was the most amazing experience. It's like going to see Harry Potter movies at midnight and having all the dorks dressed up in costume. I would never do that, but I definitely do not disrespect them for doing it. And that's an experience that's fading into oblivion.
Yeah. Well, I don't care for that stuff. I want to get immersed into it, and I want it for myself. I don't get into the fanfare of it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
I think more people are becoming like you. Than me.
That's what I'm saying. It's like they don't want superhero movies.
Well, that's the other aspect to this,
even though
that makes the analogy a little unfair, which is we've already seen so many comic book movies.
Yeah,
and I'm a huge fan of these things. I don't ever want them to stop. But honestly, though, the superhero fatigue is real.
It's real. Yeah.
It's very real, and that it's like, how many different ways can we tell a superhero story? And how many different times can we see Batman's parents getting shot in an alley before it gets a little old?
I got that story now.
Yeah. I mean, they've gotten smarter about, we're not doing, I mean, even Marvel learned, like, they don't do Spider-Man's origin again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why...
What works though? I mean, that's the thing.
That's the thing is, like, the conversion is to streaming.
Yeah.
Especially for adult dramas. Like, Breaking Bad should have been one of the most amazing indie feature films of all time. But it became an ongoing, limited series. And it's addictive, and it's that streaming aspect, and it's long-form storytelling. And if you haven't noticed, aging filmmakers have moved into streaming series.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because for a feature film, there's this idiom on the studio side, well, you have to be a young director. Otherwise, you won't be able to make a movie that everybody will enjoy. And that's not true. But it's a thing that's been around for years. Like, Spielberg cannot make a feature film that's going to be like Jurassic Park again. He doesn't want to make popcorn movies like that. He wants to make adult dramas that make him happy. But there's not that money in it. His feature film box office has gone down and down and down. His movie Lincoln was supposed to be a streaming series, and it probably would have been better if it had.
Well, I'll tell you something that I picked up on. I'm going to use Paramount Plus as an example, because I'm trying to think of the producer who's got these series of 1842 and
the guy. He did I know exactly what you're talking about, because he's the one who did that Kevin Costner series, and now he's all these spinoffs. They've given him $500 million, but now it's not making any money.
I wish I could come up with
I'll find his name while you talk about it. Tell me what you're thinking. I'll get his name.
What I'm thinking, though, is I've noticed that 20-some-year-olds suddenly like Sylvester Stallone because of a Paramount TV show. These older actors are finding fans of a younger generation through episodical TV as opposed to features. Then they go back and see some of their older movies through a streaming service like Netflix, and they can identify with that character. Now the problem is you can't get those guys back into making movies with the studio again, because, well, one is it's a lot of work, and they like to control, their own destiny.
Yeah, that's
Expendables. Stallone's going to make another one, but people will go and see it, though.
See, here's another thing that separates the old people from young people in a lot of ways. Not entirely, but my dad, who's
Tyler?
85,
Is his name?
Tyler Sheridan.
Tyler Sheridan, yeah.
Tyler Sheridan is kind of like the he's the pillar, the tent pole that holds up Paramount Plus.
Oh, absolutely. Well, look,
but the funny thing is with that idea, my dad still has cable TV to this day. And you know what he likes? Finding something that somebody else is showing and watching it. Now, what does every person under basically 35 want? These are all people, even people my age. My youth was I had a VCR. I could watch what I want, when I want. That leads perfectly into streaming. Because streaming is I watch what I want, when I want.
Yeah.
Somebody like my dad, Netflix is overwhelming. It's like, I have 1,200 potential TV series or movies to watch. I don't know what to do. He spends more time scrolling and not watching. And then he's like, I don't like Netflix. But then you have someone like me that it's like, I want to watch what I want, when I want. I subscribe to 6 streaming platforms so that I can get what I want, when I want.
Yeah.
And so it's this natural transition. But then when you have that content, the quality of the content is... adult dramas tend to be more streaming now, almost exclusively. I don't see anybody putting dramas that are not spectacle. Meaning, if you're talking about a drama that's like a period piece, like a cowboy drama, that's a movie. I can see that as a movie because they can say, oh, it's different, it's big. They're trying to equate theatrical as being it has to be an event or no one's going to go see it.
Well, it didn't work for Kevin Costner.
It did not work for poor Kevin Costner, who's very talented both as an actor and director. Yeah. But I think he just gambled wrong on that. And I think but it's also how much is his fault and how much is people are not going to the theater.
Well, the story was awful.
I hadn't seen it, so I don't know.
Yeah. There's just, the story's just awful. I mean, I would have paid money to see something like that, thinking it was going to be like one of his breakouts from like when he did... when the Civil War,
Dances with Wolves.
I mean, geez, I was thinking something like that. Well, I was wrong,
Unfortunate. And the other thing is, I keep hoping that he would team up with Lawrence Kasdan again when they did Silverado, and they did their version of Wyatt Earp. Lawrence Kasdan is a true storyteller.
Yeah,
he's a phenomenal writer and director himself, but. Well, I'm just not seeing the success. Not much is happening at box office if it's not an animated kids movie for the whole family.
Well, that's what I was going to say. And I saw the promo. This one caught my eye. How to Train Your Dragon, a new one,
a live action version of the.
I was like, movie. Yes. I don't know why, but it just had a good feeling.
Yes.
Like it's like, oh, I need something good to make me happy.
But there's another thing that I'm terrified is going to get lost is the psychology. And you bring up How to Train Your Dragon, and it makes me think of something else, which is part of the appeal of a movie theater that you cannot get at home is the term larger than life. We've all heard that term. He's larger than life, or it's larger than life. Well, that's a reality when you talk about a movie theater, because when you make a person's face 20 feet tall, that's literally larger than that face is in real life.
But there's a problem with that. I think today, I don't know who they are, but I agree with there are no movie stars anymore.
Not like there used to be.
And if you don't have a movie star, and I'll still, Tom Cruise fits the bill still, right?
62 years old.
And he's, he's defying, he's death-defying to make it a point, which, come on. But if you don't have a movie star and you don't have that where everybody knows you, they're not going to pay that $20.
And that leads me to...
And larger, there is no larger than life then, besides the screen.
Yes, and that's true. You have to want to see someone's face that big.
Yeah.
And that's where movie stars, male and female, have that appeal, that charisma that jumps off the screen. And then you have people like Jennifer Lawrence, who's slowed down her output as an actress. Who do we have? Who's left? And those names are not carrying the weight they used to.
No.
It's all changing.
Right.
For good or ill. And I think it leans more towards ill, because for me, larger than life goes beyond the star, which is something I will never forget as long as I live. I was in college in 94, and they took over a year before Jurassic Park hit VHS. And this guy never saw it in the theater. He watched it on a 13-inch TV VCR combo, smaller than this laptop.
Yeah.
And he saw it. He's like, I don't see what the big deal is. And I'm like,
yeah,
literally, you don't know what the big deal is. Like, because you're talking about a 4-inch tall dinosaur as opposed to a 24-foot tall dinosaur. Which one is going to affect you psychologically? And that same thing with like Titanic. It's like the sense of this boat having scale is you're looking at a 40-foot tall, 40-foot long screen as this boat slowly moves. You have the surround sound. It's rumbling your chair. You have a sense of scale and excitement.
Yeah.
And then you're sharing that experience with everybody around you. That sense of awe. That is not something you'll ever get, no matter how big your TV is at home. By watching it by yourself or in such a small group, you are not going to replicate that actual theatrical experience.
But I don't disagree with that. But one thing that I realized, I didn't realize this at first, because everything you're talking about, I agree with at the theater, and having that experience. And then I started to try to bring that home as well.
Me too. The bigger TV,
nice couches and surround, and that was when you used to be able to get DVDs. It was a little easier, You could really. But when I'm out on a job and I've got three guys with me, younger, working with me, and I see them. Everybody's on their phones, but they have accepted the fact that whatever they're watching, it's good enough at this size, and the sound apparently is good enough. So I've seen them get so focused on their phone to a show, a YouTube video, whatever it may be.
The rest of the world disappears.
It's a theater. If we were to do a poll, and if anybody wants to do a poll on our channel, if you're 25 to 30, how much do you care about watching the same show, whether it's on your cell phone or on the big screen? I'd like to know. If you are 18 to 23, I think I already know the answer. They're not going to theater. If they're going to go to theater, they're going there to maybe meet a girl and just screw around. They're not going for the show.
Which to me is the tragedy.
Yeah.
And I think that the problem is, I think that the whole point is my prediction of the future is we're already at a state where movie theaters are starting to become specialty, almost like going to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Like to a smaller degree, the movie theater has already become, this is only for a particular spectacle. And there's one guy in Hollywood who predicted this a long time ago, and the studios should have listened. James Cameron.
Oh, geez.
He called it. When he was doing the first Avatar in 2009, he talked about, he's like, you know what? They should have a pricing tier. Seeing an indie adult drama shouldn't cost you $15. It should cost you $6 or $7. To see Avatar in 3D should cost you $25.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think he was wrong. I wish the industry had listened to him closer, because I think he nailed it. I think the thing that disappeared was the dollar theaters. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. No, I wanted to tell you, like, everything got put out of business. Anything that was, I loved Scarborough.
Yep, Scarborough. I worked there.
$2, $3, I don't remember.
$1, then eventually went all the way up to $1.25.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you know what the business model was there?
Uh-uh.
There's first run movies, which is the regular movie theaters. They made a 35 millimeter film print that would go to the regular theaters, and it would play for anywhere from 3 weeks to 12 weeks. After that, they have this tens of thousands of dollar film print that's been played and it's scratched, but it's still usable. And rather than melt it down to use it on another movie, they rented it for almost for free to a dollar theater that's making no money on the tickets, that's just selling popcorn. The entire $1.25 went to the studio for each ticket to rent that print.
No kidding. Because
otherwise it's just delaying the eventual meltdown to recycle it.
Yeah.
So it was just a way to make more money. And that was going with digital. You don't have that.
Yeah.
Because it's a digital print. It's a digital copy.
I see.
There's no reason to second run it at that lower tier. Or maybe the first run theater should think about adopting that model. Well, after 4 or 5 weeks, if it's still in the theater, try charging half off on the ticket. And you'll get more people to see the movie later, knowing I can see it cheaper now. And they might be able to prolong their business a bit longer.
The thing, if the word of mouth isn't there, which is really hard to get anymore.
Do you know what the studios are doing? Because here's the other flaw. See, the other thing about that business model of movie theaters and why it's so appealing still to studios It is one of the fastest turnarounds of money. Because from the day you buy the ticket to the time it hits their bank account, their cut, 10 days, not 10 business days. 10 days later, the money I gave them in cash is in their bank account at the studio in 10 days. That's fast.
Yeah, it is.
The only thing faster is the streaming that they already got your money from before they even made the show, the subscriptions. They got the money up front. So part of that is to talk about what you're talking about is that turnaround between theater and streaming has gotten so short that they think of it, if the movie bombs, all the advertising we paid for on TV for the theatrical kind of converts to they see it on their streaming that they're already paying for. So they view that advertising dollar as double spent. It's promoting both the theater screening and it puts the tickle in your brain to watch it on streaming in a couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they've already gotten more bang for their buck on advertising dollars, but they're slitting their own throat on cutting off the theater money. They should still keep that window because, I mean, it used to be back in the day in the 80s and early 90s. It was released in theaters and in the U.S. first. And then it staggered that release for over a year throughout movie theaters around the world. And after 12 months, it would hit premium, like rental VHS, where the tapes cost $100 or $75 for the rental places like Blockbuster. They paid $75 a copy. So they got, because it wasn't for sale, it was only for rent. Then you could do pay-per-view at the same time. Then 6 months after that, you could buy the VHS for $10 or watch it on HBO for free, even though you're paying for HBO. And it just made money and money and money. And 2-3 years later, it was on regular TV with ads. So the studios were just raking in the money at every stage. Whereas today, that money is box office, if you can get it, streaming, and that's it. No more money. So that business model is radically changed. It's no longer nearly as profitable as it used to be.
Yeah.
So that leads to the problem of not only are the theaters dying, but that's why they can't make as many movies.
True.
Because the money's not there like it used to be.
Well, the other places they made their money, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about legacy TV. So NBC, CBS, they all own these movie studios.
Or they're owned by the studios.
Yeah, exactly. So I should put it the other way. And, they raked in this money from their news, a lot of money made off the news, and also sports. And now the big three, the Netflix, Amazon, and Apple, are going after their bread and butter of the
Amazon
sports.
has NFL.
Amazon, yeah. And it did really well.
Because so many people have it.
Who would have thought Thursday Night Football would be anything? CBS tried it for a couple years. They thought it was like a failure. Amazon turned out, it's like, we'll take it. We'll take it.
And they did something with it. And it showed that people would watch.
Yeah. Big time viewing. So as the studios keep losing their bread and butter, there's no way they're going to be able to make the big movies anymore.
And it's already happening.
Yeah, no, it's already happening. And what do you think? You think theaters?
I'm worried about theaters. I think what I believe the future holds is I think the end result of movie theaters is going to be spectacle, big movies only.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to, there's a slight possibility that an independent comes up with something innovative. To quote Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah.
In the documentary about the making of Apocalypse Now called In the Heart of Darkness, he talks about, he goes, the actual quote he made is, some fat girl from Ohio is going to make a movie that reinvents cinema. Yeah. And I believe that's pretty close to the quote. Okay. I think he's not wrong. I think somebody is going to, on that independent level, truly reinvent the concept of cinema in some way that revives the entire industry. We just don't know how or what, when or why.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I can tell you that AMC should have went bankrupt years ago. They've been hanging on with the thread. They have raised money through stock sales during COVID when their stocks was too high, and they were smart. They made more money, but it's going to take one of them to falter. I'm going to pick AMC. And then maybe these theaters could get handed back to independents. And maybe they could change the business model and in their own markets find what works for those people.
I think that would be fantastic because there used to be this thing called Show West that was for movie theater owners because back on 35 millimeter print, there were still a ton of cities and whole areas that only had a 1-screen or 2-screen theater that was privately owned. So they would fly all of those cinema owners and the execs from people like AMC to Las Vegas because when you only have 1 or 2 screens in your city, you can only show 1 or 2 different movies. So they would sit them at lunch with Arnold Schwarzenegger to convince them to take the new Terminator movie. Because these independent theaters are like, I get to have lunch with Arnold. I'm definitely booking Terminator this summer instead of Sylvester Stallone's movie. So it was very effective. But after everything went digital in 2002 on to like 2012, when digital projection became the mainstay, none of those theaters could afford the $80,000 to $200,000 conversion.
Right.
And so the vast majority of those independently owned cinemas disappeared overnight.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you a good example of the theory of what I'm talking about, why it would work. And I can't think of the name, but in Nelsonville, Ohio, there's an independent movie theater.
Yeah, right off of 33.
Yes.
I've been there many times.
The gentleman who's, if he's, still ticking, I think he is, he's 85, 86. I did The Courier. No, not The Courier. The Bigfoot movie. We premiered down there. But anyway, you can go there and get a first run movie for $5.
$5-6, yeah.
Yeah, and he's not changed it even today.
Yep.
And I don't know how he does it. He subsidizes it. I mean, he's got a great concession.
His profit is in the popcorn and candy and
he's got games and stuff
Arcade.
all around. So my point is, if you let these chains fold and let independents get in there, they can create an environment that is conducive to them for your money. Games, movie, whatever. It just makes at least somebody with a family would get more value. I think the kids would love it, and they would say, "Hey, Dad or Mom, let's go over to that theater, and for that $20, we get this package."
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like that's what has to happen.
I would be hopeful that is the future, that more independently owned cinemas crop up and that they're more conducive to, let's find out what works with our audiences.
That's what I'm trying to say.
And the only other thing was when we talked about streaming services, part of what they're doing that they are driving out of business is traditional media. Broadcast TV's hanging on by a thread only because it still exists and it's a digital. They have all those 0.2, 0.3, 0.4 channels and they're all supported by ads. So that's kind of self-sustaining. But cable TV, my dad, again, about to turn 86 years old, still has cable, still likes flipping the channels, does not like streaming, although he's fallen in love with Netflix and he only watches K-dramas. South Korean.
Yeah, a lot of people love those.
All day, every day.
My mom was that way.
All day, every day, he watches that stuff with subtitles.
Crazy, Netflix will change their algo and give you all that stuff.
Yeah,
in your
that's
feed.
all he gets.
Yeah,
his whole feed is nothing but Korean dramas,
one after another,
and he likes it because they now change the algorithm where when one episode ends, the next episode plays automatically, and if the whole series ends, it just suggests and starts playing another. It's become like cable TV, and now he likes Netflix. He hated Netflix for years because he didn't want to make the decision. He's like, I make decisions all day, every day. When I turn on the TV, I don't want to think. I just want it to tell me what to think. And so I think that cable TV as a business model, what's funny is streaming has become with ads like cable.
I know.
And then you got the bundles. And there's even a bundle where Hulu, Disney Plus, and their competitor from Warner Brothers, Max, or I guess it's coming right back to HBO Max. Man, they could not make up their money. But
it is
destroying it. The industry is changing fundamentally.
Yeah, well, they've been trying to figure out a way to make it profitable. I mean, they've been spinning their wheels on this for quite a while. Netflix has dominated all of them. Yep. And they're still spinning their wheels.
Well, yeah, there's a great example from Netflix, which is a cable channel called USA Networks had a show called Suits.
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
didn't make any money.
Yeah.
They put the same show on Netflix.
Oh, I know.
Gangbusters.
I know. It's amazing.
Breaking Bad.
Yeah. I know.
Was a mediocre, was a critical hit, but not a ratings hit until they repeated seasons on Netflix. Friends and The Office found a second or third life through Netflix.
Yeah.
So much so that there was a business deal where they were about to start Max, because Warner Brothers produced Friends, but aired it on Netflix, which is owned by Universal. But they own their show, and they have the syndication and future rights. So they're like, well, we're about to start HBO Max, and we want Friends back. But it's going to take us over a year before HBO Max premieres. So when the contract came up with Netflix, they're like, we want to renew. And they're like, no, we're going to take it off of there for a year. And they get it. I said, well, if you want it, you got to pay triple. And Netflix like, forget that. And after 6 weeks, people were so upset they didn't have Friends on Netflix.
Wow.
Netflix paid the higher rate from Warner Brothers. Like, we'll pay whatever it takes.
Warner Brothers won that one.
They made money on both ends. They made the money there. And then as soon as that contract is over, they put it on their network exclusively.
The one thing you have to do that the actors don't like that stuff because
I can tell you why. They don't get residuals.
No, I know. They don't.
The biggest thing with that is the thing about the contract is the actors don't like it because when it's produced by one company and there's demand for it, you sell it to the highest bidder. But if you're selling it to the company who made it, they were going to cut themselves a better deal, which means they're not going to make as much money in residuals. So it's a terrible business model for actors, writers, directors, producers, because they're not making residuals. Like, again, what it used to be is you'd be on an episode of Star Trek. It would then air in syndication in multiple markets. You'd be making hand over fist for years.
Check.
For a Star Trek show on Paramount Plus, it's not for sale to anybody else. So you get paid once and you don't get paid again. Or your residuals are so minute. They're not worth having. And if there's a huge demand, it doesn't matter because they just get to keep it all at Paramount Plus. So it's just a terrible business model.
Well, for them.
Well, for us and the actors, it's a great business model if you're a stockholder in Paramount. But even then, the weight of having to create that content and pay for it, and if you don't keep the subscribers coming in, there's only so much money you can make a month, and they're not budgeting for that. They budget for, we think it's going to be good forever, and then when they make bad decisions, it's over.
Do you want to move on? Something else? A little something else? Wrap this up? Or?
Let's wrap this up.
Just to follow up, we put a little short on the
Facebook page, and it'll soon be on YouTube.
So just to follow up, that's The Chair. We talked about it on our last episode. That's a short film.
And so we just put in the music video.
It doesn't. I haven't told anybody it's a music video yet, but there's a song that I produced, and we're waiting. The song's going to hit Spotify, Amazon, Apple, probably about 4 days. We've got a music video, and this
right now we have a preview of the music video.
So there's a little preview there, and this all comes back to the AI Google Flow. So we're going to talk more about stuff we talked about last episode, and we got all kinds of other topics. We're really going to take the experiment to the next level. We're going to get into some current news. We're going to get into a lot of technology. We're going to get into robots. We're going to get into drones.
Robotics.
Robotics.
And more about AI. Peppers through all of that. We're stretching beyond our filmmaking roots, and we're talking about the thing that we're both interested in, which is technology. Futurism in a way. Kind of like predicting where are things headed due to technology. And that seems like an interesting place for us to go. We had so much fun last week that's where we're kind of focusing now.
So we hope you watch this episode, and we hope you come back for the next few, because it's going to be different. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things that's going to broaden your brain.
See you guys.
See ya.